Thank you, the entire Design India show put together by Sudhir, Sudesh, and every member of the Indie Design team for making me come here and share the journey with you. Thank you, Samit. I was fortunate to speak at the G20, so thank you for those amazing backdrops. I've been spending the day listening to all of you, engaging with y'all, but something that stuck with me today is the talk from Vijay Bahu. He said something about Swabhav and Swadharma, your innate nature and nature of your work. And I hope by the end of the evening you see my nature, which is jolly and fun-loving, but now the nature of my work. I'm talking about data-driven design, and design drives the way the data we collect. How many of you can raise their hands and say that the design that you do, the feature list comes from the business team, or do you look at the data and then tell them what is the way we should design to collect better data? Option A, option B. Option A, how many hands? Does the business tell you what to design? How many of you have reached a position where you work with the data team and they tell you and tell them that this is what we should design to collect the right data? Okay, I see a few. I'm very happy to see that. So before we start, right, we are designers. We started our journey with qualitative data, right? Emotion, EQ, how are things, what's the problem, what's the need is where our journey starts. So I would like you to close your eyes, put your palms in front, and imagine what could you keep in the palm. I don't see any eyes closed. Hindi mein baat karu, Marathi to aati nahi. Eyes closed, palms up. Come on, I don't need to be like Vijay Sahu, right? So shake your hands. What can you keep, guys? Any answers? Bunch of keys. Apples. Anybody else? I'm sorry? Ball. Okay. Okay. But did you imagine the baby in between? Thank you for all the smiles. I know this image looks beautiful, right? I'm sure some of you are smiling. But how many of you know that this baby is 600 grams and is fighting for his life? When I got to know this at the age of 20, when I was a designer, just fresh out of design school, I was like, how can I solve this problem? It started with data. How many people go through this problem? 300,000 babies die every year, 6 babies every minute. And this is what we knew back in 2000. Any guesses which year Embrace was done? Because it's one of the case studies that has made to Harvard and MIT. This is back in 2009-10, right? We were actually working on how do we make a cheaper incubator, because that's what we were taught. Take a problem, make it affordable for the country. But what we realized is, in the design process, that what is an incubator? Why is it not working? So I'll take you through some images. Traveled across 16 states in India, and this is what I found. A room full of babies. This is an NICU of a PHC. And you can spot an incubator. But it's not being used. And why is it not being used? India is not a poor country. There are enough philanthropists giving money out. One, there's no continuous supply of electricity. The nurses are not trained in using an incubator. More than that, exactly like Aparna said, we can't make decisions. Imagine the poor nurse. Which baby should be going on the incubator? How does she prioritize that? So we started working on it and started seeing what was the problem and how is it being solved by people. People were using hot heaters, hot water bottles, and we started seeing the third-degree burns that babies were getting through it. Yeah, that's me when I was 20. And then we started sketching it out, right? How can we build an affordable incubator which can be used for transportation? We started mapping the journey of a mother in India and how she delivers at home versus a private hospital versus a government hospital. We started going and speaking to the dais the midwives who deliver, and started to speak to them that how can, you use our product? Do you think this is feasible? What she also spoke about was collaboration. Whenever you have an idea and you're building it for somebody, it's very important that we collaborate with them because the qualitative data that we get from them improves the way we build products. We ended up building, I'm showing just a few, 10 of them and 11th there, but we built over 500 prototypes in a period of 9 months in order integrating each data point that we were getting from the nurses, doctors, etc. Thus came the birth of the first portable non-electric infant warmer in the world, which we scaled to about 22 countries in 6 years. And I cannot tell you how it made me happy when we saved the first, he's our first customer in Bangalore at Cloud9 Hospital, right? And he was just 600 grams and now he's 8 years old. It's lovely that as a designer, I had the opportunity in my life to save a life. But what happened after that? In interest of time, I'm going to skip the video of Embrace because we're running late. I ended up going to MIT after that. And that's where the true journey of data-driven design began. I started seeing designers looking at design from a tool point of view. I design on Photoshop, I design on Illustrator, I design on Figma. But design is a problem-solving skill, and if we really need to think about data-driven design, we need to actually understand how business thinkers work, how technologists work. So that's what I learned there. I learned the power of data-driven design. In the world of complexity, of UX that we live today, we really need to understand that how design can drive the data we collect, not that the data that we collect drives the way we design. I started seeing that a lot of users were using digital experiences against the others. And they would compare the product that you're building based on experiences that Amazon was giving. And this is back in 2015. So we thought, okay, how do we start now using this in our everyday lives? How do we stop becoming afraid of numbers as designers? How many of you are afraid of numbers as designers? How many of you introduce yourself saying that I'm bad at maths? Couple of you, right? All the award-winning students right there, right? But I started thinking that can there be a design process in which we can start representing the data analytics piece from Google, from from Adobe Fireframe. We can actually start looking at each of those data points as conversations like we conduct user interviews. What is the user trying to tell us in a digital platform? We can start looking at each of those data points as conversations which users are trying to tell us in the digital world that I'm not happy with this. This is what I want to do. I know it's a little bit difficult to understand, right? And I'll get to an example which will make it easier. And start collaborating myself much more. As we heard, right? I actually moved my seat at Tata Neu from sitting on the designer floor to sitting with the CDO and the data analytics team. Because I was like, why am I designing? And for whom am I designing? There was a point where we used to use people at the end of the spectrum and design for them. But how do now I have million data points and use them to ensure that this one hero banner works for them? So now, let me take you through an example of what I'm talking about. Imagine booking a ticket in a physical world. Anybody, what happens when you book a physical ticket in the real world? What do you start with? Anyone? Queue, right? There are a million variables that play in just one simple task of booking a ticket. You might have to find parking. You might have to make it to the front of the queue till there is a ticket available. The ticket counter person should not go on a lunch break. You should not get the sleeper class ticket and probably get an AC ticket to go. And all those variables are not in your own hand, right? Which is beyond the activity of booking a ticket. But today, it is all collapsed in a single screen. Yes, no, maybe. And what is this? This is where Make My Trip came, or Go Abibo or Trivago, these companies became data-informed and built a website to book the ticket. But should we stop there as the future of data-driven design? Because this is not data-driven design. This is, it is data-driven design. I just wanted to check. This is not design drives data. This is not been designed in a way that it will drive the next product features. It is just a simple task. You go online, you book a ticket, that's it. And unfortunately, the data that is collected at the back end of all of these super apps and platforms that are coming out, what do we do with all of that data? It's pushed onto Power BI, a screenshot is taken and taken to the boardroom. It's not even live representation of data. Have we thought about designers building the next mobile-based real-time command center for these CEOs? And that's the future that I see. It has to be represented in a manner for each of those executives to consume in what they understand and what they like. So what does this mean, right? Why are we now not asking ourselves simple question? What if people want to accomplish the use of the products? And how well are we being able to do that? Keeping the travel example alive. How long did it take to book the ticket for someone? And was there a person able to catch the flight? How often did they come back and book the ticket again? Why are we constraining ourselves to the data points जो हम physical world में collect करते थे in the digital world as well? Why are our metrics and our KPIs still stuck to the same thing? Why aren't designers, we are not using our power of our imagination? And you always say, right, what people say, that's not what they do. What people ask is not what they fully tell you. They want beyond that. We need to imagine ourselves. And what is that next? So we deep dived into it. Unfortunately, guys, I lead the consumer experience at Accenture and previously at Tata Neu, where I can't show the live examples. But I'll still try to concise it. So if you become data aware as a designer and see all the data points and work with the data analysts and the engineers and the marketing folks on how a campaign management has worked, you'll very soon realize some solutions, and I'm sharing them here. She's a person, a persona, who's 6 feet tall, shops on Amazon, buys the ticket. How many of you relate to this scenario? Quick show of hands. You all do this on an everyday basis? Now, I'll just use Amazon because it's not my client. On Amazon, you can also book your domestic flight. There is a feature. So when you go to book a flight in the world of super apps today, what is going to get me brand loyalty? Why should I go and book beyond we Indians being, very, very cognitive of the fact of pricing, कि सबसे सस्ता यहाँ है. उसके अलावा, what is my reason to probably go to a Tata Neu or a Go Abibo or make my trip only as a loyalty member? Any answers? Okay. But I'm talking about data-driven design, and design drives data based on the data we collect. So what if this person's seat, because I told you she's 6 feet tall, when she goes to book her seat, the middle seats are auto-blocked, and you're auto-assigned the aisle seat because of the leg space. Or you get the first seat or the second seat based on priority, because the brand knows you bought an double XL t-shirt. You're probably, a 6 feet tall person. I am going to use that as a feature and design my solution for you, which in the world we call as hyper-personalization. Or for example, if I'm flying from Delhi to JFK and I have a stopover at Heathrow Airport, how many of you have noticed that flight रुकते ही लोग खड़े हो जाते हैं और ऐसे भागने लगते हैं कि एक दूसरे पे निकल के जाएंगे? But for some people it's real, right? Because at the Heathrow Airport, it's only 20 minutes to take transit time, cross security, and catch the next flight. Now imagine if you were a loyalty member, automatically it would bump you on the first zone of the flight so that you disembark the airplane faster, you cross the security faster because you have the next flight to catch with the same brand. And now that is a feature which is driven by the data that you have collected. Similarly, I want to show a project today which is not beautiful. Please don't judge my design aesthetics from this, but because this is in the public domain, I can share it. This challenge was given to me back in 2017, and years are important at the fast pace we are moving today. I moved back to India and we were told that, hey, can you actually build a project in which you can see which farmer is growing which crops? And my biggest trouble was having bureaucrats convinced that, farmers even have smartphones. We ended up building a platform where, farmer would just take a picture on his field, but it would auto audit whether he's standing on his own land and which crop he's growing. He didn't even have to type it out based on image analysis. Not only that, we ended up building the platform in a way which solved for all of this. And the reason it looks so rudimentary because a Sarkari officer sitting at a Mantralaya does not use a MacBook Pro. He uses a Lenovo which can crash anytime. So you need to think about the performance of the platform that you're building for and does it make him feel uneducated or not? What we ended up finding in this project is with just a simple process of a farmer taking pictures and the data showcased that there were 250 varieties of crops that were never even captured in the 300 years of India's history. We never even knew that we are growing soya bean for fuel and it was never even reported. Not only this approach of using design to drive the data we collect and visualize it for people, it helped change us policy. It helped us build the first policy for digitization of crops. Had revenue department and agricultural department talk to each other for the first time. We ended up building an app which only connects to the internet when the internet is available for the farmer. But he still can use the app 24/7. We had to understand each of those requirements and build that accordingly. In interest of time, I just wanted to show that this project has now scaled from one village to 769 villages to now entire Maharashtra and now is at the PMO's office and it should be scaled across India very soon. It was not a very beautiful project, but I think it was the most important project in my career where I saw how the right visualization of data for the right stakeholder is very important for the project for a success. Because when I built a beautiful version of this, it was not accepted because they didn't even understand it. So we need to think about in the world of today, the next is about absorbing design and working with data analysts and building digital platforms to ensure the data that we designers want is also collected in order to influence the product that we want to improve for the future. Similarly, the world is round and I had to come back to this, right? I started my journey with building for babies and in the last 4 years when COVID hit us, ended up using my design skills and built a platform because I saw that the numbers were still rising. From 300 million, it became 4.5 million. So we all know it takes a village to raise a child and I have a child now. He's 4 years old and I realized the ecosystem in India, it was completely, not servicing the mother of today. So we built our very own village, which you can use on your smartphone. You can click on a finger and see a holistic platform, consult, see the content, do commerce, as well as have a community of doctors, not influencers, authenticated evidence-based doctors to talk about your journey from pregnancy to parenting. It's a platform which needed to be there because 2 in 5 mothers are actually changing the way they leave the workforce. 24% are becoming geriatric mothers. 1 in 8 couples are experiencing infertility and 1 in 2 are now having LGBTQ community families, right? So it's a very interesting platform where we saw that how when we use the right data points that we collected from the mothers, our app kept changing based on their feedback. We started with 200 mothers and now we've reached a platform of 25 lakh mothers who we've supported in the last 2 years of the journey by empowering them with the right data with a Netflix sort of a platform. We've actually helped them with video consultations with the right doctors. It doesn't matter whether you're in Raipur or whether you're in California, if you want to speak to an Ayurvedic doctor, the person is available to you. You also make the right product of the right choice during the parenting journey, because there is so much that e-commerce throws at you. But when it comes from an expert, the whole journey is very different. And lastly, the power of audio. We've collaborated with a brand called Benza, where we do audio podcast just with specialized doctors. And we've gone to Spotify, where we talk about topics like intimacy during pregnancy with my partner, which you can't even walk into a gynec's cabin and talk about, right? That's where the power of design and the data that we received from our surveys came in. Lastly, I wanted to say, because it's about the next, vernacular is the next power in digital design going forward, and I urge all of you to bring your typography skills, etc., back on a digital platform. We're also going vernacular with first parents. And I started my conversation by taking inspiration from what Vijay said, right? Swabhav and Swadharma. So it's my nature to work on things which have impact, which can deliver value, which is for scale. And those were the 3 examples that I wanted to show today. I just wanted to end with a quote in Hindi. How many of you guys understand Hindi? Yeah, all I wanted to say is, if you want to work on things which are related to scaling for India, for impact, do get in touch, because abhi is baaz ki asli udan baki hai, abhi iska asli imtihan baki hai. अभी तो हमने सिर्फ लांगे हैं ये 2-3 समंदर, अभी तो पूरा आसमान बाकी है. Thank you.